I know that's kind of not, how can I say, ideal to do it. But for example, if you get your results from nitrogen and purine derivatives, and you try to play around, hey, how much microbial protein I would have based on this energy sources that I have, would that show big differences as well or no? I'm trying to assess is, for example, if you think if you had a different source of energy or the way you played with the ingredients, that would give you the next step, you think?
Yeah, so I think that would be a very interesting follow-up to this is, you know, like you mentioned, when we reduce crude protein, something has to go back into the diet. Whenever we set up this study, we chose to add in starch and NDF and fiber back into the diet, and the reason for that is if we add more fiber, we may lose intake, but if we add all starch, we may cause milk fat depression. So we thought, well, let's do 50-50 replacement, because that would be, you know, the most optimal in for what we're trying to accomplish. But that would be an interesting follow-up to see the effect of oscillating crude protein and starch, basically, or crude protein and fiber, versus a 50-50 mix.
But let's say if you add molasses or other sources of energy that not necessarily are just starch, so you kind of get away from, or beet pulp or whatever, that you get away from your milk fat depression, but you're still kind of balancing that energy. But then I'm not sure how, if the software will capture that, if the NRC will understand all those fractions and say, oh yeah, this is a good match here. You have all your protein profile, your ABCs here. Now I'm doing this with soluble fiber and sugars, you know. I'm not sure how sensitive that system is to tell you, yeah, this is how you should go, right?
I agree with, you know, I don't know what the software out there right now, I think would do exactly opposite of what we want. Because, you know, when we drop the protein and the days where we fed low protein, it's going to say, well, you don't need energy to capture the nitrogen because it's not there. So it's going to say feed less energy. And one of the big problems is we're so tied to a day, and we forget that this cow, what I feed today is going to affect this cow tomorrow. It's not just going to affect it today. And we're off this cycle. And you know, if you look at Alex's MUNs, it's 1 day off. The day of high protein had actually the lowest MUNs.
Yeah, that was very interesting. You think the opposite, so, right? It's high should be low, you know.
And it's so we just got to quit thinking everything's a 24-hour cycle. It's not. The rumen isn't totally empty when we feed it the next day. You know, it's still a lot of stuff left over from the day before. So the software we have right now on a day, if you do it on a day, wouldn't work. We need to move it ahead a day. But I think of coming up with ways. Sugar's a good idea. You know, it's not a big milk fat depressor. It helps on energy. It's highly digestible. So that might be a good idea. But you know, his diets, his high and low protein differed by about 5 percentage units in protein. So you have to make that up with something. 5 units of starch worried us changing. And so that's why we went half and half. To be honest, we never thought of sugars. That might have been a good idea to get some energy in there as well. But what you're substituting, I think, is an area that we really need to think about.